Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third night of our Kwanzaa celebration. Habari gani.
Habari gani.
Ujima. Ujima is today's principle.
Ujima.
Thank you. All right, so I just want to issue a statement at the top of this. We are live streaming, so make sure when you speak, you protect your privacy. As long as you keep your camera off, you will not be shown on the stream. You can turn your mic on and talk and everything without being shown. All right, and with that, I will hand it over to Candace to begin our ceremony.
As we begin this celebration, let us pause to remember all who came before us and their great sacrifices. We exist because you, our ancestors, used intelligence, creativity, and faith to survive. We come to you humbly and with grateful hearts to show our love and appreciation for laying the path for us and guiding us in the right direction. We thank you for your protection over us, as well as our families, and for interceding on our behalf in the difficult times, and we appreciate your support. We ask that you continue to guide and support us as we celebrate the 7 principles of Kwanzaa and endeavor to apply them to our lives and our families as we journey throughout life. James, request permission to light the candles.
Permission granted.
Candace, your iPad video is not on. I'm not sure if you're lighting the candles. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, the 3 candles are lit.
All right. So we will, we will begin this ceremony. Over here. Okay. So I will start with reciting the affirmation for today. Today's principle is Ujima, collective work and responsibility. And the affirmation is to build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems to solve together. So what I have here is the write-up from the official Kwanzaa website. And I'm going to do a combination of reading and summarizing to just to explain more what this principle really means. So they've broken it down here into 4 sections. And the first section is about active and informed togetherness. This is a commitment to active and informed togetherness on matters of common interest. It is also a recognition and respect for the fact that without collective work and struggle, progress is impossible and liberation unthinkable. So this is all about understanding that we have to work together in order to succeed at anything, really. And especially if we are striving for the liberation of our people. It says, African is not just an identity, but also a duty and a destiny. In other words, our collective identity in the long run is a collective future. So we need to, this brings together well, no, sorry. So yes, our collective identity is so important to build because it is our future. Our identity as African people is our future. The second part of this is African freedom is indivisible. As long as any African anywhere is oppressed, exploited, enslaved, or wounded in any way in his or her humanity, all African people are also. Thus, we reject the possibility and desirability of individual freedom in any unfree context. Instead, we pose the need for struggle to create a context in which all can be free. You know, struggle doesn't come at an inexpensive price. I mean, freedom doesn't come at an inexpensive price. Freedom only comes with struggle. And so we have to be together. We have to struggle together in order to achieve the freedom that we all as humans and as African humans especially desire. I think this is a great quote. It says, the liberation struggle to rescue and reconstruct African history and humanity is a significant contribution to overall struggle for human liberation. And I think this segues perfectly into the next part of Ujima, which is active cooperation. This is based on the assumption that what one does to benefit others is at the same time a benefit to themselves. Excuse me, sorry, my phone. So basically, you know, to get it, you got to give it. It's the idea that every time you do things that are good for other people, that also in turn benefits you, not only in material things, but in spiritual ways as well. And a quote they have here is, all things of value are to be shared as a common good. And when I read that, the first thing that popped into my mind is the way that our ancestors, when they all lived along the Savannah River, they shared all of the equipment and the tools they had. You know, one person had road building equipment, another person had a cotton gin, and they were able to succeed together because they shared and pooled those resources. And so this talks about the Lovedu tribe in South Africa. And when they pray, their prayer is never just for oneself, but for all of their health, blessings, and prosperity. In fact, to ask for something personal without at the same time asking for the collective is both improper and immoral in the Lovedu culture. And I think that should be true everywhere. I think your prayers should always include others along with yourself, because that is the way that we all build as a community together. So the fourth and final part of this is the challenge of culture and history. It says here, work both personal and collective is truly at the center of history and culture. It is the fundamental activity by which we create ourselves, define and develop ourselves, and confirm ourselves in the process, both as persons and as a people. And it is the way we create culture and make history. You know, I think that's really powerful, the way it says we create culture and we make history. It talks about here, you know, the centuries of enslavement that our people have been through. And despite all of that, the amount of culture and technological advances and cultural achievements that we've been able to achieve, imagine how much more we could have achieved without centuries of oppression and enslavement. So it says here, quote, the challenge of history and culture then is through collective work and responsibility to restore that which was damaged or destroyed, and to raise up and reconstruct that which was in ruins, as the ancient Egyptians taught. We are each cultural representatives of our people, and we must accept and live the principle of shared collective work and responsibility in all things good, right, and beneficial to the community. And I think this principle really wraps up, really pulls in the last 3 days all together. You know, we started on day 1 with unity, umoja, and the spirit of being one together. And we take into day 2 with kujichagulia, the self-determination, self-reflection, and understanding our own place in the world and how we fit into the bigger picture. And then we come into Ujima today with collective work and responsibility. And I think it really ties everything together with, you know, knowing yourself, knowing we are one, and working together to build together our future. So that is my summary of what I have learned about Ujima, and I am really interested to hear what other people might have experiences to share with Ujima and how they practice Ujima and how they can practice more Ujima in the future. I open the floor.
Well, I like to, this is Wynette, and I would like to speak on something I learned during the tour that Desiree gave in Anderson. And I guess it's something that stuck in my mind. Remember, Desiree, you took us to the square where the Black businesses were during the times that we were not allowed to go into the white businesses and purchase things. So we created our own marketplace where we were free to purchase from and barter from each other in a kind of, I guess it's the center of Anderson. Do you remember that, Desiree?
It was on Church Street.
Yeah.
Am I off mute? Yeah, it was on Church Street. We had at one point Church Street in Anderson was like what's the place in Atlanta where all the Black businesses were? The name is escaping me, but it was similar to that, where there were nothing but Black businesses there, restaurants and barbershops and everything that you could think of on Church Street.
Yeah, so I remember feeling as I walked around that, you know, this is kind of hallowed ground, that people can walk past it, you know, on a regular basis and not understand the history that was there. And it just made a profound memory for me that how we empowered ourselves when others were trying to take our power away. We still continue to empower each other and ourselves. And that's I think a good example of the affirmation, maintaining our community together and making our brothers and sisters' problems our problems, to solve them together.
Yes, definitely. And I think you are actually kind of bleeding into tomorrow's principle is cooperative economics, but you know, the principles of Kwanzaa all really work together. And so, you know, collective work and cooperative economics are really, you know, in the same pocket. So yes, that's a wonderful example of the community working together to provide for everyone's needs. Thank you. Anyone else have something to share?
Another example that I can think of is with these last 2 virtual reunions. You know, the committee had to really think outside the box for these 2, and we depended on our family community of family members to step forward and participate a lot more than the usual participation when we were in person, but to step up and do our segments of things that they knew and they wanted to share. And the first time was great. We didn't know how it would go, but it went wonderfully. I can still remember Julius's animals and Aunt Leota's sourdough bread and some other things that people that I knew about before, but then through the virtual reunion, others knew about it. And also this past virtual reunion, where we had so many people step up that we actually had 2 channels. And sometimes it was really difficult to pick which one you were going to watch. So that was through our coming together as a community, because that's something that years ago we would never have thought that we could handle. And not only did we handle it in the light of technological challenges, but we really had a good time, and people shared, and we appreciated it, and that's how it came together. So that's another example of working together collectively.
Yes, that's a great example. Pulling together, every family member contributing what their gifts are, and all of us being able to grow from that. I learned so much at the reunion. I learned about how to grow salad on your back deck. I learned about how to sew a pillow. I learned so many things, and I never would have known all of those gifts lied in my family members if it wasn't for that opportunity for us to collectively share.
and all the artwork that we saw,
Yes.
that we probably would never have seen, because we weren't, there were homes of cousins that we don't usually go to, and yet we got tours of like art tours. So that was amazing to see all of that talent that we heard about, but we were able to get a chance to see it.
Definitely. Anyone else want to share?
Yes. For me, when I think about the principles of collective work and responsibility, sometimes for me, it's just very difficult for me to wrap my head around back in the day with our ancestors, how white folks said, well, you can't have this and you can't do that and you can't come here and you can't go there. And collectively, they got together and did what they had to do to survive. And they certainly have many, many more obstacles than we do. And sometimes we can't work collectively. So I think about some of the towns that they built and started banks on their own, and stores to buy their goods and to do what they needed to do collectively. So sometimes I just reflect back on that and I think to myself, wow, what would I have done if I was back then? I mean, could I have, I guess I would have learned from them, but I think that's just so deep. Sometimes it's just hard to wrap your head around that thought. But I think that if we did work collectively and responsibly, we could get as much and do as much as our ancestors. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh,
and on that line, when I look back, I know I had researched it one time that 40 years after we were emancipated, we had institutes of higher education. I mean, like, that is amazing to me. So those of us who had learned with or without the blessings of our masters, those of us who learned made sure that they taught others, to the point where, okay, you're still trying to keep us down, but you're not going to you cannot keep us from educating ourselves. And so 40 years after being a slave, here we are with institutes of higher learning. That is absolutely amazing to me.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you pointed to a really important part of Ujima is not only working together, but passing that on to the future generations. Like you were saying, the people who were fortunate enough to learn to read taught the others to learn to read, the people, and keeping that going on, because because we understand the principle of Ujima, and because we know that benefiting others benefits ourselves. And that's beautiful.
I was having a senior moment a little while ago, and I thought of the name I was trying to think of in Atlanta, Auburn Avenue. That was where all the businesses were, all the Black businesses were, and, you know, it was well known that we were prosperous there, just like in Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was another area. So Church Street in Anderson, in my mind, was the equivalent to that.
Mm,
And you know, you there's a lot to be said about desegregation, and you
yeah.
know, us in the civil rights era getting our freedoms, and still to this day still fighting for freedoms, but that's a conversation for another time. But there's a lot to be said about the fact that when we were segregated, you went to a doctor who was a Black doctor. You know, you went to a grocery store that was Black owned. Everything around you was done by Blacks. That was the same thing that when I went to Ghana for the first time, I had an aha experience and realized all these businesses here are Black run businesses because everybody there is Black, period. So when we desegregated, a lot of that was taken away from us. And, you know, I know that desegregation had to happen, obviously. But that's something that, you know, we should ponder on, the fact that, you know, how many Black businesses do you support now intentionally? How many Black businesses do you know of, or have you started a Black business? You know, just things to consider.
Yes, definitely. It's important as we build our future that we look to, you know, the ancestors and the people who have built before us, that we have a blueprint. We don't have to start from scratch. And you reminded me of how where is it? There's a part in here that you reminded me of. I lost it. Oh, well.
Okay, well, I'll give you a minute to find it. But Candace, I agree with you. I mean, Desiree, I agree with you. Desegregation was a win and a loss because, you know, and I guess it's always going to be like that. But the thing is, now we can still choose to. Okay, now it's a choice. So we have to make an intentional choice of supporting Black businesses now. So it is not that we can't go anywhere else, but do we the power in seeking out the Black business as opposed to just the nearest business, the closest business, the most well-known business. So we can still use, and that's probably economic power too. So that's going into another principle too. But we can still choose to buy Black.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. We have a comment from YouTube. Judy Collier says, my father always said how well off we were as people when we had to support and depend on ourselves. So yes, echoing that point of like segregation had its benefits in that we were able to support ourselves. But the thing that it says here is the liberation of African people is a contribution to the overall struggle for human liberation. And it reminds me that as we fight for our own freedom for Black people, we also gain freedom for brown people, for Asian people, for all colors of people. When we fight for recognition of our humanity, we fight for the humanity of all people. And that's, I think, a really powerful thing that we as Black people hold the key to all people of color. We are all one. when it comes down to it.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else anyone wants to say? Then with that, I think we will wrap.
Right. Um,
Go ahead.
hi, everybody. How y'all doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm listening to everyone's input and I totally agree with everything. But the one thing that comes to me, and I don't want to put a damper on our achievements and how we were able to maneuver through a system that was looking to make sure that we did not excel, but we did. And in retrospect, again, I don't want to put a damper on it, but we have to also deal with the reality that they also had issues as well. And I wouldn't so much say issues, but when it comes to, like, the family, right? And when you talk about Ujima and helping, the family and helping each other. And I'm quite sure at some point that they also had issues like we're having now, like, the mental health issue and in terms of what's happening in families and in the school system and everything. And we have achieved a lot, and it's good to focus on that and be, grateful and happy for it and be joyful. But at the same time, how do how do we factor in the other side that does, that we are, we can achieve and we are achievers, but on that other hand, to do all of that as well and to take care of our sick. But now it's a different type of, it's not, in terms of like the measles or the, the mumps or whatever. It's now pragmatic in terms of, this mental illness thing that's going on. And for the right now, how do we factor that into to make sure that we check on each other? A lot of suicides have been happening, and with people that have been successful, they know, things are just how they are. But how do we incorporate that to extend to our community that is not doing so well? And I was reading Maya Angelou's book, and it's The Rainbow in the Cloud. And on this page, she says, some decide that happiness and glee are the same thing. They are not. When we choose happiness, we accept the responsibility to lighten the load of someone else and to be a light on the path of another who may be walking in darkness. And, again, I don't want to put a damper on. I'm enjoying this so much, but the reality is that we also have other things that we need to focus on as we're going through the 7 days of Kwanzaa.
Yes, and I think what you hit on is the responsibility part of it. It's collective work and responsibility. We have to both do the work to build our future and hold ourselves responsible and caring for each other. So I think that is true. It is both. It's both a balance of work and responsibility. So thank you for that.
And not only that, it's not putting a damper on things, because I think the overall concept of Kwanzaa is to look at where we come from and look at what we're doing and plan to do more of the good things. So that's not, you can't even put a damper on that. And if you recall, I put out an email, I sent it to the whole family in January of this year. And I said, was it February 22nd or something like that? It was about 2. Okay, because it was 2022 coming in. So I said, let's take the number 2. And I said, and I suggested in the email to call 2 people each month and just say hello. And so things like that, that even embraces the whole mental health issue that you have, because, you know, one of my people that I still keep in touch with is the woman who took such wonderful care of my mother and father when they were still in the home. She was hired initially to take care of my mother. Then next thing you know, she was taking care of my father. And next thing you know, she was bringing food. And next thing you know, it was just like one thing after another. And she did it quietly. She didn't ask anybody. And now that they're gone, we have formed a bond so that I will call her every couple of weeks to make sure she's doing okay, make sure her niece is still helping her out because she lives alone, and dog Blue is getting walked by a neighbor who volunteers to walk because she doesn't walk so well anymore. And you know, and I continue to pray for her that her cancer stays in remission. And so that is, it's got to be one of those principles. But it's like, you know, I don't have to call her. I just feel like she is family because of the love that I saw that she had for my parents, that I will always make sure that she is taken care of too. So I think that the whole concept of Kwanzaa is to look back, get the strength, see where you are, and move forward in a positive way, however you need to move. So there's some of us who may have family issues with mental health. That means that maybe you need to go to that person and try to understand what they're going through. Just offer them a safe place to land or a safe place to be, to talk about it or not talk about it. So if you work as a unit, as you see yourself as one of a whole, then you take care of each other in whatever way you need to take care of each other. So the principle of Kwanzaa is just kind of separating out all the different ways that we can take care of ourselves and each other, because in every principle, it talks about yourself, but then it talks about others too. So it's all about collectivity. And that's what I really like about Kwanzaa, because it's a gentle prod to move forward and do more and do better and do it together.
Yes, what a wonderful summary. Thank you so much, Mom. With that, I think we will wrap up on that beautiful note. I'll read the farewell statement. We strive for discipline, dedication, and achievement in all you do. Dare to struggle and sacrifice and gain the strength that comes from this. Build where you are and dare to leave a legacy that will last as long as the sun shines and the water flows. Practice the Nguzo Saba daily. Lastly, we say Harambe as loud as we can. We try to make the room shake. Each time you say Harambe, reach your arm up high, make a fist in the air, bring your arm down with force and justice of all that you are bringing into your life, bringing the Nguzo Saba. And we say, ready? Harambe!
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 Harambe! Harambe! Harambe! Harambe!
Yes.
All right. Thank you,
That was
everyone.
great. Thank
Have
you,
a
everyone,
great
for
night.
participating.
Happy Kwanzaa. Heriza Kwanzaa.
Thank you for
Thank you,
participating.
happy Kwanzaa.
And
Thanks,
we
everybody.
hope to see you tomorrow. And thank
Good night,
you. so much.
cousins. Good night. Good night,
Good
cousins.
night.
Good night.
Good night, cousins and friends.
Cousins and
Yeah.
friends. Yes, good night.
Yes,
Good night to all of you. Good night to all of you.
Good night.